There we go. And hi, everyone. Welcome, Class 40, to this great event, our leadership class, the best class ever, of course. We have to say that because we are. So it's good to see so many great faces. And this is such a great opportunity for all of us just to get together and learn more, even though we knew each other in our classes, in our class. But it's great to know what each of us do outside of our daily, life that you see on social media. What do we do for work, right? A lot of us don't know what we do for work. I think I'm probably one of the ones where nobody knows what I really do for work. But I'm really, really excited to be the host on this great and introduce this great talk, and we're going to have Conway on, and just reading the bio and just the questions and remembering when we went to the Federal Reserve, and just all those things coming into play, and know a little bit about Bo and what he does and the questions, and just have everybody listen in. And if you have questions, we would do those at the end. So first of all, we have some amazing upcoming things. Everybody is so involved in the community, and that's what I love. So we're going to have some announcements come up right now, and those are going to be amazing. There's a lot of things going on, and let's take a look at the announcements we have going on. So we're going to have a quick slideshow of everything on.
It says I'm sharing.
Yeah, it's showing.
Yeah, it's showing.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, welcome Leadership Houston, Class 40. We're all doing such amazing work in the community. That is what I love. We have actually the applications for Class 42, and they close on May 30th. So if you know anyone that will benefit from this amazing class and this leadership series, please pass on the application to them, pass on over our website for Leadership Houston so they can get in. As a matter of fact, tomorrow they have an information Zoom that people who are interested are able to ask questions and know more about it. An Inspire Luncheon. How exciting is this? We will be honoring not only Sanjay, who is an alumni of Leadership Houston, but Mayor Sylvester Turner. Please share this. This is a great fundraiser for Leadership Houston and a great way for all of us to come together and help and raise money for Leadership Houston that gave to us so much. So the Inspire Lunch, look at your emails. You should receive all that in your emails as well. And of course, Buffalo Soldier National Museum, of course, one of our classmates is in the New York Times. Hello. Desmond has been doing an amazing job with the Buffalo Soldiers Museum, National Museum. So big shout out to Desmond, and let's continue supporting. I mean, the New York Times, you cannot get bigger than that. So that is amazing. And of course, let's see what we have here. We have, of course, Shannon Hunter and her husband, who are co-chairing the Emerge Fellowship Build a Village luncheon on March 7th. So let's try to support this great cause. Tables and tickets are still available, but I'm sure we've seen this on our chat. And again, we'll look at this, send it out in our chat so we can either buy a table together or tickets are available. And of course, Francisco, our great friend Francisco and classmate, working hard to support those impacted by tornadoes in our area. What a crazy day that was. I mean, a normal day, we knew something was going to happen in the weather department. We did not know tornadoes were going to hit the Pasadena area, those areas that destroyed many communities. So we thank Francisco for all his help, and let's continue donating to so many people that are still without a home, still rebuilding in that area. And of course, Mr. Rita, who we have on here, you spoke at the American Marketing Association Houston chapter. Great work, Dorita. You do so much for our community, and marketing is what it is your biggest suit. So thank you so much for being part of that and continuing to be part of the community of marketing, and most important, still being with Leadership Houston and helping us do these kind of events. Oh, we're gonna skip that one. Uh, of course, I've been doing such, I love the rodeo. I'm an alumni of the rodeo. So I am always grateful to come back and give up to the scholarship committee who put me through my undergrad, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. So you'll be seeing in the upcoming weeks more postings on the rodeo. Please donate, please go out there. The money goes back to scholarships. Last year, one of my committees, which is the Bico Tejano committee, gave back 20 scholarships of $20,000 each for Hispanic students in our community. So please continue supporting the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Dorita, I love it. The Final Four. You are such a big intricate part of this, of the Final Four and being here in Houston. And so we want to thank you for all your hard work. You made it onto the Houston Chronicle, and how students are participating in the Final Four here in Houston. So thank you so much, Dorita, for always being part of the community. And May 7th, Crawfish Festival at the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum. Please contact our classmate Desmond to get more involved, buy tickets, and guess what? Crawfish. Hello, who doesn't like crawfish? We all do. So let's all get together. Let's try to get together May 7th and let's go eat some delicious crawfish and support our classmate Desmond at the Buffalo Soldiers Museum. And Desmond, again, he made it onto Houston Newsmakers to discuss the $13 million Ready and Forward capital campaign. What a great time that is. What a great to see our classmates at Houston Chronicle, New York Times, and on these local political newsmaker shows. It's always great to see our class being so informative and being part of our community. So big claps to all of you and Desmond. And of course, March 2nd at Carbach. Join us for happy hour where we get to see each other again. And that is very exciting. We get to catch up on our lives and most importantly, have a drink with our family leadership class 40. So hope to see all of you there. All right, there we go. And what a great way, y'all. How exciting. So many things happening in our community, but I'm not going to hold you back anymore. Because we're going to introduce one of our Leadership Houston classmate, Bo Conway, and he is Director of Cash Support Office. I'm going to tell you for the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. So let me read a quick bio for those that don't know what Bo does or who he is. So we are going to start off. Bo serves as Director of the Cash Support Office for the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas and its branches in Houston and El Paso. He oversees various functions in support of cash services, which include compliance, business continuity, finance, analytics, and reporting, and project management functions for the Texas and Oklahoma regions. He chairs and participates on several Federal Reserve System committees and groups. Bo received a BBA in finance from the University of Houston, go Cougs, and holds a project management professional PMP certification through the Project Management Institute, PMI. He's also a proud graduate of Leadership Houston Class 40, the best class ever. Bo is also a sneakerhead, collecting and wearing some of the sweetest kicks out there. In addition to wearing the latest styles on his feet mainly, Bo is also an avid hunter and has had recent success hunting deer and bucks. Last and most importantly, Bo is a dedicated family man, married to his beautiful wife, Angela, and they have two wonderful children together. So without further ado, welcome, Bo.
Thank you. And I really like the spruced up bio too. I'm gonna have to steal that. Sorry.
We got to see your sneaker collection now. That's forget about everything else, Bo.
Yeah, we'll just go straight to that. Yeah.
Yeah, your questions are now like, what? Tell us how many you have. But we're going to start off with some important questions. And, even though we know that you work for the Federal Reserve, what exactly do you do for the Federal Reserve? And what is your current path with, or your current role with the Federal Reserve?
Yeah. I'll try not to repeat too much of what's in the bio, but it is so really the way I always categorize my role at the bank is I handle all support costs, right? Anything that's supporting operations, anything that's not touching the money. So it's the business continuity functions and how we operate during hurricanes, or everybody thinks of hurricanes from business continuity, but network outages, different things like that. All the way to budget. My group oversees all the budget for all three offices. It's a little bit of everything that we touch, like project management, business continuity, compliance, which is a big piece of what we do. So it's one of the things I enjoy most about my role is it's not really focused on just one thing. I get to have my hands on a lot of different pieces of what we do. So that's really what makes it fun. And kind of my path at the bank was there's been a handful of folks that have kind of taken this similar. I started at the bank in 2001, so
Wow.
So it's been a while. I actually started there. I was selling Kirby vacuum cleaners before I started at the bank. I use the term "sell" very loosely because I literally sold one, and that was to my mom. So I don't know that counts, but I needed a job, and I had applied a couple different times, and I got an entry-level position in processing cash. That's why I was, I don't know if you guys remember the tour, the guys that were opening up the bundles and counting. That's where I started. I didn't have a degree. I was kind of floundering a little bit, to be honest, and just kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Started at the bank, and it really gave me just a different perspective, and started just doing things a little bit different. I met my wife there too, so that helped. With a little bit of motivation, she told me she wouldn't marry me until I graduated college, and so that kind of got me back into college, and graduated, and so on and so forth, and just moved through different analyst roles and up into management, and did a lot of system work, and worked for the San Francisco Fed for a while, doing some big projects, and ultimately ended up in the role I am now, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So it's been a really fun journey getting here. Like I said, I've been able to experience a lot of different things, over the past, 22 years. It's weird to say that out loud, but it's been that long. I expected to be at the bank for 6 months, and flash forward
And look
22
at
years
you.
later. So
Right. Many years later, you made this a career. Let's talk a little bit, Bo, about cash. The big, question on cash. With cryptocurrency, Venmo, Cash Apps, Zelle, everything that has to do with cash, is the world of money, cash, dying?
So the short answer is no. I think the longer answer is, at some point there will be more of a decline, but I can share with you 60% of U.S. currency is held overseas. So when more than half of all the cash that's out there isn't even in our country, you get
Right.
a sense that it's not, it's really not going anywhere. It's such a it's stability. That's really what it stands for. The U.S. dollar stands for stability. That's why so many different countries hold it. But ultimately, from a cash usage, COVID has been unique for every industry, right, and us included. And so, we saw a lot of cash usage drop, in 19, just because, and a large piece of that was because face-to-face transactions weren't occurring anymore. Everybody was quarantined or at home, and so a lot of the transactions that take place with the use of cash just weren't occurring. Everybody was on Amazon, including myself, and so we did see a drop, but in 21, we've started to see that trend back up. So there's still some to be seen, but it's actually continued to increase over time. So I can share with you that over the past 10 to 15 years, while the increase in cash usage has slowed, that's such a hard phrase to say, cash usage has actually increased. So the percentage of the increase has gotten smaller and smaller over time, but it continues to increase. And ultimately, it takes a smaller piece of the payments pie, if you will. The way I like to think about it is you have this big pie of how payments are being made, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, cash, check, all these different methods. And while the sliver of that pie, that cash owns has gotten smaller, the pie has grown. And so when you look at it as strictly a percentage, the percentage of usage of cash in respect to all payments has shrunk, but the growth of the whole payment system has grown more than cash has shrunk. So that's why it's a little bit it's a little bit confusing at times, because while you can look at percentages and say, the percentage of cash is decreasing, but the percentage of payments or the number of payments is increasing so much that cash is actually still increasing. And one of the biggest, and there's a couple of, and I kind of nerd out over some of this stuff because it's just what I do. We've seen some trends which are very interesting over the past few years of larger denoms. You guys may have seen where banks used to never have 50s in an ATM. You could only get 20s. Now you see 50s and hundreds in ATMs. And so you're starting to see a shift from people carrying 5s, 10s, and 20s to 50s and hundreds more. Part of that's things just cost more. But part of that also is, during COVID, we saw another large shift of, while we were not necessarily getting cash receipts at the same level coming in, our payments were record highs because people were holding money. So we saw where the average person was carrying about $60 in their wallet pre-COVID. They carry $76 now, and so it doesn't sound like much, but when you take that across the whole country, that's a large increase. I mean, that's a 25% or so increase. And then people are holding money at home. Used to people had $240 or so, and now it's $347 per household. So that's been a third, if not more, increase.
And I'm glad that you touched on that subject, Bo, because I have this thing. So when my father passed away 3 years ago, he had old money because they're elderly. Let's talk about cash, and as we're talking about this, people that keep that money sometimes. So my father used to keep a lot of money because that was their mentality at that age, that they didn't trust the banking world. Everything was stuffed under a mattress. I mean, just the worst thing that you can possibly do, right? But it was very old currency. I'm talking about the old $20 bills. How does that work, Bo, in this industry? Does the Federal Reserve still accept those old money and actually give you new money, the most current currency to change? Or is that dead money and you lost out on thousands and thousands of dollars?
Yeah, no. So I'll answer the last part. It is not dead money. So if it is issued by the U.S. Treasury and put into circulation by the Federal Reserve, it is still U.S. currency. Now, the older currency is probably worth more than what the face value says. So if you have a $500 bill at home, it is worth more than $500. I mean, because it's no longer printed. It's it's been out of circulation for a long time. It's more of a collector's thing. Like, people used to collect coins and things like that. So we don't actually take those. They have to go through the bank. They have to go through a Wells Fargo or Bank of America or somebody else. And I'll tell you, if anybody's in that situation, I would highly recommend not to do that, just because they're going to give you face value. So I mean, if you just want to dump it, that's one thing. But if you want to get more than $500 for that $500 bill, banks and such are going to give you just face value, because that's just what it is. They can't give you more. And it's sad, but at times we've gotten, where people have passed away and their collections, and somebody, a family member just sends it to a bank and it ends up coming to us
Mhm.
through a bank and we destroy it. And so, I mean, you're looking at this, we've gotten some where it's, I mean, it's pristine, it's mint condition money that's over, you know, silver certificates or, I mean, just really old, high value, like just really cool pieces of history. And we have to destroy it because it's not, we can't, you know, we can't value it that way. So, yeah, so it's
That's
kind of sad
amazing.
to see that happen sometimes.
You know, we see that more. We see people heading to coin collectors, to collections. You know, we've seen people who have passed away that were, you know, they're celebrities and they had coin collections, money collections, gun, you know, and they're heading more to a private sector of, you know, people that are able to value this money, this old money, and give you more for it. I think that's very interesting. So we're going to go on to another question that I think it's so important when we talk about the Federal Reserve. We want to talk about the structure of the Federal Reserve. I think that is so important to keep in mind because we don't know when we took that visit to the vault to the Federal Reserve here in Houston. But for me personally, I had been there before, but to me, it always gets me that how that office is so protected. Of course, I know money is in there, right? But how does it go about coming to Houston? Why are we here in Houston? Why is the Federal Reserve here in Houston and not in Austin, where the capital is at? You know, that's my mentality. So tell us a little bit about the structure of the Federal Reserve and how many offices are actually here in Texas.
Yeah, no, sure. It's so this is actually, if I'm not mistaken, our third attempt at a central bank in our country. It has been the longest because the first two were they just did not work out very well. But so what the way it's set up is there's actually, and I say that because that it being the third attempt is one of the reasons we're set up the way we are. Because it was to try not to repeat some past mistakes. But there are 12 districts across the country, and so you have Boston, New York, Cleveland, San Francisco, St. Louis, Kansas City, Minneapolis, Chicago, probably forgetting Atlanta. I don't know how many I named, but there's 12 of them. And those head offices, they're really placed. Well, let me take a step back. So there's 12 districts and there's 28 offices that process currency. And then there's a few more that are out there that have presence and more for community outreach. But each district is set up as its own entity. So it is not all, it's tied together with oversight from the Board of Governors, but at the end of the day, it is 12 independent organizations across the country. And so you can imagine, even though we have the oversight by the Board of Governors, there's still a lot of challenges when you're dealing with things, because at the end of the day, District 1 doesn't have to listen to what District 2 says and so on and so forth. But so we're not quite structured as a business, but the offices were placed in different cities, largely based on like economic factors, whether it was, population, just general spending in those cities. But quite frankly, a lot of it was politics too, right? I mean, this all started well over 100 years ago. And I think anybody would be naive to think there wasn't a little bit about, hey, I'll approve yours if you approve mine. I mean, I think that just naturally probably happened. And so we have the Dallas office in our district. We're the 11th district. So the Dallas is the head office. And then there's the Houston office, the El Paso office, and the San Antonio branch. And so we process currency in Houston, Dallas, and El Paso, and San Antonio has a presence for community outreach and so on and so forth. So we service obviously all of Texas, a large part of Louisiana. We go into New Mexico, and then we actually service Oklahoma as well. So it's a large region. We're not quite the largest region. I think geographically speaking, Minneapolis and Kansas City are probably the largest, but they have the least. Their geographic region is large because their population is smaller. You're looking into Montana and a lot of these places up north. And the San Francisco district's pretty large as well. California and Washington, Nevada and things like that. So it's an interesting structure, because if you ever go look at a map of the districts, the East Coast, and it makes a little sense as population moved from east to west, it's very concentrated with districts. And then, you get further west and the districts get bigger and bigger. But really the locations were really based on just kind of what was happening at that time, economically and so on and so forth.
Both. Quick question. I know that when we arrived at the Federal Reserve, one of the things that is given to us is all this money that is shredded. How much of that money is shredded, and why is it shredded? I think it's very important to ask because people are very destructive with the money. People write happy birthday on a dollar
Yep.
bill. And that's, I don't know if, I mean, that's cute, right? Because it's like happy birthday, but you're actually destroying currency. You're actually destroying currency. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and you are. I mean, and it's actually, it's a crime, technically speaking. I mean, nobody's prosecuting anybody for that, but it's yeah. So we bring in, so just for even numbers' sake, if we're processing, around 8 million notes a day in the Houston office, a little over 8 million notes. Out of those, we will probably shred 1 million of them, if give or take, depending on the denomination. Obviously, we shred fewer hundreds than ones, because I mean, ones are just nasty. I mean, money in general is just gross. I mean, it's very dirty. But the low denom, high transaction denoms can tend to get torn and messed up more. But the reason it's shredded is various reasons. So it's because it's ultimately deemed unfit, and so that's because it's been written on, it's been torn, it's just worn. It doesn't have that same. It just it's wrinkled and just it's just not considered fit currency anymore. And so we actually remove that and replace it, through different processes, replace it with freshly minted or printed currency. But yeah, I mean, quite a bit of it shredded. I mean, we shred a lot of money, because of a lot of it's so dirty and just you can imagine it goes through all these machines and in and out of wallets, and people are writing on it, and people are just tearing it up or crumbling it. It's a lot of different things that happen to it.
So, but talking about that and how dirty the money gets, let's go back to what we were talking about a while back during COVID. And it seems like eons ago. COVID seems like years ago now. But what practices did y'all put in? This was money coming into your hands, into people's hands that process it. And that was our main fear, is having contact with another person. What practices were put in place during the COVID and the Federal Reserve?
So I think like a lot of other companies, we did, if you could work remote, we allowed that, to the best of our ability. Obviously, if you're processing cash, you can't do that at home, unfortunately, because it'd be nice to bring some of that home. But we have a lot of controls in place where, to try to protect the integrity of the operation, whether it's two people in a room or different things like that. A lot of it, quite frankly, we had to take on some risk, whether it was, we tried to mitigate it the best we could by, PPE, and we were doing deep cleanings, and, we were doing as much as we could to try and mitigate some of that. But ultimately, some of it was just inherent that, we're going to be taking in this currency, we're going to be touching it, and, we just have to do the best we can to not get, and we had our series of infections. I mean, like everybody did. Whether it was a grocery store or whatever, you have your exposures and you have your, your quarantines, and sending people home and doing the best we could. But it was challenging. You can also imagine, to go off on a little bit tangent. I mean, the morale challenges of, you have a contingent of workers that are going to the office every day like nothing changed, but a whole other group of people are at home, and not having to take that risk. And so, we did some things to try to, incent or to try to differentiate that, right? Whether it was, trying to increase pay, doing premium pay for those that were on site, essential workers, things like that. So we tried to do the best we could, as much as we could, to really reward those that were having to kind of be that front line, if you will.
Well, Bo, before we open this to questions, I'm going to ask you one important question. What has been the best experience working for the Federal Reserve, and as many years as you've been there?
Oh, wow. So I can say, and this isn't just a company line, but it's, I really enjoy the mission that we have and the role that we play in the economy, and not so much the interest rates and the inflation, because I get that, where we're adding cash, everybody has a hand in that and all that stuff, but it's more so, at the end of the day, we're so business continuity events are such a time where I like to say we shine, right? Because when everything's flooded and the power's out, you can't swipe your card somewhere. You can't Venmo somebody because your phone's dead. You can't do all these different things. You always come back to cash, and we've never closed. Through Harvey, through Allison, through any event, we've always been open. We've always provided that cash, and I think that for us to be able to do that, there's something just kind of cool about that. That we've been able to always make sure that we were keeping that piece and then holding that up. I'm not saying it was easy or there weren't challenges and hiccups, but I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that I've always been most proud about working at the bank. It's a noble mission, right? I mean, that we're doing something, in my opinion, for the greater good, and so I've always really enjoyed that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say meeting my wife, has to be up there, because if she ever sees there, here's this. I have to say that to not get in trouble.
Not only did you get a great career, but you got a great marriage out of it.
Right, yeah, got a family out of it. What other companies give you those kind of perks, right?
No. And then health insurance. You're good. So this was a great conversation, getting to know Bo Conway, Director of Cash Support Office, Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. So I'm going to open now the floor for any questions that anybody has for Bo.
This is Dorita.
Hey, Drita.
Okay, so Bo, with this relationship thing, are y'all hiring?
We are actually. I'll send you over some links. Yeah.
Send us over some links, Bo. I love that.
Great job.
My wife's in HR, so
Jarita,
Yeah,
you're in.
great job. I'm so glad that you did this. I know you're kind of like, oh, what do I talk about? But we don't really know much about it. And so just appreciate you sharing the information today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Very well.
Thank you, Dorita.
Hey,
Anybody?
it's Kimberly. I was stoked to see or hear this because I missed the session at the Fed. That was the only part of the class that I missed. And so I was really glad to see this come across, because I think it's really, really interesting. Doing a lot of work in different states, people around some politically active people were always like, who do you think is the most powerful person in the country? And I'm like, it's the chair of the Federal Reserve. Whoever holds that seat is the most powerful person in the country, period. So I love highlighting the importance that this institution and those of you that are so involved play in our daily lives.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Kim. And you know what, Bo, that is really, really important. Because when we did take this tour, we saw the power we know the power of the Fed. We know the power of the Federal Reserve Bank. Basically any collapse or anything, our whole economic system will just shatter, and this is what has kept up the United States for years and years. Currency, it's money. This is why I say that money makes the world go around. It is the currency, the money. You cannot, we have Venmo, we have Cash Apps, we have this cryptocurrency, but if you really think about it, end of the day, it is cash that you need. It is cash that will get you out of a lot of situations of, buying homes, of buying a car. My father was a great believer of cash. He would, but again, this is old school. We are the new, generations. But if you really think back, our past and the people in our past knew that money, how important to treat money. It's treating money with respect. It's treating money with, things that you may need in the future. And here comes a generation that we write on money. We destroy money, right? Because it's so easy for us to Venmo, Cash App, we do our Apple wallets. But there has been times in my life, Bo, where here I am, I need freaking $10 to get a valet, and I'm just standing there like, who do I ask? There's no ATMs, so it's always important. I always carry $20 in my pocket because I feel like that's going to get me out of any problems I may have. It's a start to getting out of any problems we may have. So I am opening up again. Anybody else have any questions for Bo? And I think we don't, Bo. And I think it was such an information. You gave us so much great information that I truly, truly, I know that those that are listening in really enjoyed it and were pleased by it, because it's things that we don't know. It's so funny that, there are certain things that we know each other, but we don't know what you do. And like right now, are they hiring? Things like that, that here as a classmates, as we become a family, we can always extend our hand to those that are looking for changing in career or changing, anything in your life. And this is such a great start. So thank you so much, Bo.
Well, and one thing I'll add, because talking about that, so I think that everybody thinks of the Federal Reserve, it's just a bunch of economists, right? And so, but that's not, I think we have about, give or take, 12 or 1,300 employees in our district, between the 4 offices. Only about 50 of those are in research and economy. So it is a very small percentage of the employees in the Dallas district are on the economic side. So we do hire. We have audit. We have banking supervision. We're going out and actually checking compliance on member banks, business continuity departments, community outreach. The group that helps organize the events like we had at the Fed. When we had our class day, there's a whole team of people that run the visitor center. Could think of the name, the conference center. So there's planning and that. There's law enforcement. Obviously, all the guys carrying guns. IT, legal. We have architects on staff. So it's a little bit of all over the place. And so. So I guess my shameless plug is that, like to what you're exactly saying, that if it is a great place to work, and it's not just, economists, because I wouldn't be there if it was just economists. I am by far no economist. And so it's a neat place, and there's a lot more to it than just, what I think people see on TV with FOMC and interest rates and inflation. There's a lot more kind of under the covers, if you will. For people to do.
For you. Well, Bo, they are lucky to have somebody like you being part of the Federal Reserve, because from what we know for the months that we all spent together, you're an amazing person, and you got to meet your wife there. Hello, how exciting was that? And it's created a great life for you.
I like to say she got to meet me, but that's
that's just like that. Well, thank you so much, Bo, and thank you for everyone that joined us here today. I love these information series, because these professional series with Leadership Houston Class 40, because it gets to know us a little bit more of what we do. You constantly see us, some of us on social media, but do we know exactly what we do for work, what we do to pay these bills, right? So it's always great to know, and a little background of what we like to know, what we do on our hobby area, what we do for fun as well. So thank you so much, Bo, for joining us today. Thank you to Sergio, to Dorita, to David, Kim, and everyone, Claudia, everyone that joined today, and catch us on our next series. And I know that Sergio will provide all that info to us for the upcoming professional Leadership Houston professional series. So thank you so much for allowing me to host this, to be the moderator, and to join y'all today. So thank y'all so much.
Yep. Thanks, y'all.
Great job, Ilsa.
See you guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Y'all have a great day. Y'all have a great work week.
Yeah.